Since pictures are worth 1,000 words, I thought today we would show how to install one of the Jeep steering shafts in place of the original GM column with issues with the upper boot and the lower boot, the rag joint. Normally there would be a hose connecting here. You lift up the plastic, pop it off, slide it out of the way. At that point you can get to the secondary nut here, which will normally be a 7/16 nut. Once you remove that nut and then remove the bolt up top, which would normally be a 9/16 or 5/8. In this demonstration I'm using a G-body shaft just because that's the only one I had handy. So what you would do is you would remove the shaft from the upper portion. It would then release from the upper stub shaft of your steering shaft, and then move down to your lower part of your shaft and pry it loose from the bottom, much like this. Sometimes the shafts are stubborn, so a good swift little whack with a hammer will break it loose on the bottom. You'll see it move. Then at that point you can slowly move to remove it. I'm going to stop here so I don't shake you guys to death. At this point the steering shaft's removed and you have the stub left on the end of your steering gear. As you notice, there's a flat point here as well as a knob at the top, so sometimes compressing the shaft so that you can get it all the way out of the way makes a big difference. At this point you're ready for your upgraded Jeep steering shaft. As you notice, on this end are the splined portions of the shaft. On this end is the D-shaped portion of the shaft. So real easy to tell which is the top and which is the bottom. At this point the installation of the shaft is very simple. First, I like to put this end in because of the difficulty of getting around the point on the end of your steering box. So, needless to say, line it up, make sure your bolts are removed, and slide the shaft on the end of the steering box. As you notice, you might need a little bit of force, so I'm going to stop here and tap it on. You don't need to use a hammer quite this big, but to get the point, just tap on the shaft until it is seated securely at the bottom. At that point, insert your bolt. The bolt's very important because it holds your steering shaft in. If you're not completely seated against the bottom here, it will make a big difference. So definitely tighten it up. This one is a 7/16. At this point you can verify that your shaft is out by noticing that the point of the steering is all the way out. This may just be on Syclones only, but on some of the other steering boxes you won't necessarily have this, but on Syclones it makes a difference. At this point the shaft will move in and out. Compress it quite far and then bring it up to the end of your steering stub. Pull, and it will slide right up. Again, a little bit of tapping will help move it up a little bit further. At this point you will notice the shaft is all the way up at the end of the steering stub. You can see the end of the steering stub there. At that point you've installed your brand new steering shaft. Be sure to put the bolt in at the very top, but at that point you're finished.